Today, we are going to explore 8 of the most controversial money-making schemes ever developed, how they worked, the damage they caused, and what happened to the people behind them. Number 8. The Tulip Mania. The crazy story of Tulip Mania was set in 17th century Holland. The Dutch elites were utterly obsessed with tulips. Tulips? Tulips. I have no idea how to say it. Treating these vibrant blooms as high society must-haves and the talk of the town. One day, someone thinks that tulips could be a real moneymaker. Suddenly, everyone, including their grandma, jumps on the tulip trading bandwagon. The prices of these bulbs start going through the roof, and we're talking about a single tulip costing the equivalent of 10 years' wages for your average Joe. Absolute madness. Residents were mortgaging their houses and selling their savings to get in on the tulip action. The Dutch economy was buzzing, everyone's making a killing, and it seems like the good times will never end. But of course, you know what they say, what goes up must come crashing down. And those tulips came crashing down hard. In 1637, the bubble burst and suddenly everyone was left holding a bag of worthless bulbs. It was a financial disaster of epic proportions. To this day, the Tulip Mania is a cautionary tale about the dangers of getting caught up in superstitional madness. Just goes to show when something is probably too good to be true, it usually is. Number 7. The South Sea Bubble. In the early 18th century, Britain was all about the South Sea Company. This company monopolized trade with South America, which sounded like a golden goose. But let me tell you, this goose was more like a mirage in the desert. The company's leaders, led by the mastermind Sir John Blunt, were slick-talking con artists who knew how to play the game. They started spreading rumors about how much they made from the South American trade, which spread like wildfire throughout London. Everyone wanted a piece of that pie, and the stock price went flying. It was a total frenzy. People were borrowing money, selling their houses, and even their family heirlooms just to buy South Sea stock. It was like a gambling addiction, and everyone was hooked. But as they say, what goes up must come down, and boy oh boy did it come down with a crash. The company's promises were nothing but hot air. There was no gold, no silver, no treasure, and the bubble burst in September 1720, and the stock price went with it. It was a financial disaster of massive proportions. People lost generational wealth to this thing, and it was just an all-around bad time in general. Imagine selling that trinket your grandma gave you for some stock, and then instantly the next day it plummets to the ground. Yeah, not a good time. The amount of money that was lost in this scheme was probably gained by someone in the next one. Number 6. The Ponzi Scheme. It started in the 1920s in good old Boston, Massachusetts. A shady character named Charles Ponzi had a brilliant idea. He was going to make a killing by trading international postal reply coupons. Well, if you can't already tell, Ponzi had other plans up his sleeve. Instead of investing the money, Ponzi used the cash from new investors to pay the returns to the earlier ones. It was a classic pyramid scheme, a giant house of cards waiting to collapse. But Ponzi was one smooth-talking man, and he managed to rope in thousands of unsuspecting victims, promising them crazy high returns on their investments. It wasn't long before Ponzi was living high, driving around in fancy cars and renting expensive mansions. Meanwhile, his investors, they were utterly oblivious that their money was vanishing into thin air. It was the financial equivalent of a magic trick, except there was no rabbit in the hat, just lots of empty pockets. Then, in the 1920s, the jig was up. The authorities finally caught wind of Ponzi's scam, and everything crashed. Investors suffered massive losses, and Ponzi faced criminal charges. But the story doesn't end there. Believe it or not, Ponzi schemes are still alive and kicking today. Just look at the case of Bernie Madoff. He pulled off a $17 billion Ponzi scam, making Ponzi's minor operation look like child's play. And if you think that was bad, wait till you hear number 5. Number 5, the Enron Scandal. In the 1990s, when Enron, a giant energy company, decided to pull off the mother of all accounting scams, these guys weren't messing around. They were cooking the books like a 5-star chef, hiding billions in debt and inflating their profits to the moon. How did they do it, you ask? Enron used shady tactics, like setting up secret partnerships and manipulating complex financial instruments. It was a complete scam meant to trick people into investing their money. And, well, it worked for a while. Enron's stock was soaring and its executives were living high on life. Guys like Jeffrey Skilling and Kay Lay were raking in the dough, driving fancy cars and living in massive mansions. They must have thought they were untouchable. But as you'll hear quite a few times, all things come to an end. In 2001, the whole house of cards came crashing down and Enron found itself in the biggest bankruptcy in US history. Skilling, Lay, and the rest of the Enron crew were hauled into court facing a slew of fraud and corruption charges. I wonder if they think that it was worth it. I mean, would you take like 500 million for a little bit of prison time? I have no idea. But this was just one company. Number 4 is probably one of the worst things to happen in human history regarding money. Number 4, the subprime mortgage crisis. It was the financial catastrophe that shook the world in the 2000s, when the banks and lenders were too eager to hand out mortgages, even to borrowers with no business owning a home. These so-called subprime loans were practically begging to be defaulted on. Still, the lenders couldn't resist the potential for a quick buck. Well, that housing bubble that they created started inflating faster than a helium balloon. Home prices were skyrocketing, and those who couldn't even afford a cardboard box were suddenly buying up real estate left and right. It was like a giant game of musical chairs, and everyone was scrambling to find a seat before the music stopped. And oh boy, did the music stop. In 2008, the whole thing came crashing down and the subprime mortgage market went up in flames. The fallout was felt worldwide, and these risky mortgages have been packaged into complex derivatives and sold to investors globally. It was the financial version of the Titanic, hitting the iceberg and sinking everything else in its path. I wonder if those lenders were drinking Herbalife when they caused this crash. Did you like what I did there? That segue? Did you like that? That was good, wasn't it? Number 3, Herbalife. For years, Herbalife had been accused of being nothing more than a glorified pyramid scheme, where the real money isn't made from selling its miracle weight loss product, but from recruiting a never-ending stream of new distributors. It's like a giant financial Ponzi scheme, with many protein shakes and diet pills thrown in for a good measure. Now, you'd think with all the lawsuits and regulatory scrutiny Herbalife has faced, they'd have been shut down ages ago. But no, these guys are like cockroaches, and they keep on surviving no matter how many times you try to squash them. Enter the hero of our story, hedge fund manager Bill Ackman. This guy decided to take Herbalife down once and for all. He went on a full-scale media blitz, calling Herbalife a pyramid scheme and even betting against the company's stock. It was more of a financial version of the Wild West showdown, with Ackman and Herbalife execs trading barbs and insults like it was going out of style. But despite all the drama, Herbalife is still around, unlike this next one. Number 2. The Theranos fraud. Theranos, a healthcare tech company that pulled off one of the biggest frauds in Silicon Valley history. This one's got drama, deceit, and more twists and turns than an episode of Game of Thrones. It all started with Elizabeth Holmes, a young entrepreneur who decided to revolutionize the world of blood testing. She claimed to have developed this magical technology that allowed her to perform various medical tests with just a few drops of blood. Sounded too good to be true? Well, that's because it was. It turns out that she was nothing more than a snake oil salesman. They spent years lying through their teeth, falsifying test results and misleading investors, business partners, and the public about what their technology could do. It was like a real-life version of the Emperor's New Clothes, but without the happy ending. The Enron Scandal was a huge wake-up call for the tech industry, exposing the dark underbelly of the fake-it-till-you-make-it culture that was so pervasive in Silicon Valley. Holmes and a few others that led the company were slapped with a slew of fraud charges and ended up with some serious prison time. I hope all the fraud was worth it for having a metal toilet for the next 90 years. Number 1. The Onecoin cryptocurrency scam. It all began with the enigmatic Bulgarian strategist Ruja Ignatova. With a brilliant, or perhaps diabolical plan, she set out to deceive the public and abscond with their hard-earned cash. She comes up with this whole spiel about Onecoin, claiming this revolutionary blockchain-based digital currency will make everyone a millionaire. Well, that was about as real as a $3 bill. Ignatova and her cronies managed to pull in over $4 billion from unsuspecting investors worldwide, all while promising them insane returns on their Onecoin purchases. This cryptocurrency did not have any actual blockchain technology or fancy crypto stuff. It was nothing more than a giant Ponzi scheme, plain and simple. When the whole thing crashed in 2017, Ignatova pulled a Houdini and vanished into thin air. Now there's an international search going on to try and track her down, but let me tell you this. This lady is as slippery as an eel. It's like she pulled off the biggest magic trick in history. Well, from tulips to cryptocurrencies, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, maybe subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.